Hey everyone, I'm Dan from jazzcomposerspresent.com, an online space where composers, musicians, and listeners come together to celebrate the music we love. I'm joined today by Tara Davidson, 10-time JUNO-nominated saxophonist, composer, arranger, band leader, and co-leader of the critically acclaimed Carn Davidson 9. Tara is here to talk to us today about assembling new tools for your compositional toolbox.
Thank you, Dan. Yes, new tools. When I was younger and newer to composition, I approached the process rather casually. I would sit down at the piano when I felt like it, when I felt like writing music, and I would just exploring chord sounds, bass lines, melodies, with no grand expectations or deadlines. And whenever I allotted composition time, I was essentially waiting for the muse to find me. And I would jot down, any and all fragments of ideas that I liked in my notebook. And eventually I was able to produce enough content to form compositions. I think compositional exploration that is void of pressure or expectation is an invaluable approach from which we don't necessarily need to graduate. However, as a composer matures and develops and accumulates a larger catalog of repertoire, this open-ended approach may no longer garner satisfactory results. We may start to fall back upon habitual tendencies, familiar sounds or chord structures, etc. And as a saxophonist who only really tinkers away at the piano, I also began to find that I was a little limited at the keys because I wasn't able to execute what I was hearing. Eventually, I found myself faced with composing deadlines and expectations, and open-ended exploration sessions didn't always produce results, so it wasn't cutting for me. So the introduction of new methodologies and approaches to composition can really exponentially expand a composer's output. Within the last 10 years, I started approaching composition sessions with much more purpose and direction, and I've consistently been more pleased with the material that I'm able to produce. I think knowing who you're going to be writing for before you go to write is very influential and can be helpful. We can consider general styles and moods, time signatures, etc., that can lead us in intentional directions. And of course, it's always great to take inspiration from the music that we're listening to. Furthermore, we can arm ourselves with compositional devices or tools such as tone rows, melodic cells, rhythmic cells, poetry, or more specific theoretical goals for inclusion within the composition, such as chord sounds, pieces of chord progressions, intervallic relationships. I recently went back to school to get my graduate degree in composition and was definitely faced with composing deadlines and very specific expectations for outcomes. I took private lessons with saxophonist and vocalist Sundar Viswanathan, and he had me focus on the creation and manipulation of cells of intervals. So I would create a cell made of 3 to 5 notes, and was meant to focus on the intervallic relationship amongst those notes. So in diagram number 1, we can see one of the cells that I ended up creating during the lessons, and from the cells, Sundar asked me to then produce lots and lots of lines that were developed directly from that cell and their intervallic relationships. From all of those lines that I created, he then wanted me to take 2 to 3 of my favorites and expand upon them to create an approximately 8 bars worth of melody. Eventually, these tasks expanded until I got to the creation of an entire piece. And diagram number 2 shows the expansion process. And at this point, I was ready to start composing a piece. So I was wanting to compose saxophone studies from using these cells and using this approach. And you can see the development of essentially, a major third, a minor third, and 2 semitones. And that cell served as a starting point from which I was able to cultivate a lot of larger cells and phrases. And ultimately, these developed into a fully formed piece. So now we're going to hear a clip of one of those saxophone studies. It's called February. And it all started with a 5-note cell. So having been pleased enough with what February became as a composition, I decided to further develop and expand upon this piece, which originated from a 5-note cell. I then wrote a saxophone quartet based on February. So what I found quite wonderful about this whole process, exploring intervallic cells, was that I believe I produced work that was entirely new and fresh from anything that I'd written previously. It really proved to be an invaluable tool, and I've added it to my repertoire of compositional tools.
Thanks for watching today's mini lesson. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Drop any questions, comments, or suggestions for future videos in the comment section down below. To watch our full-length events and participate in live Q&As with our presenting artists, head over to jazzcomposerspresent.com. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.